they thought God forgot you. But what if the silence was preparation? And what if you just crossed the level where everything begins? Something shifted. You felt it. Not loud, not dramatic, but real. Like a quiet click inside your soul. And this message is not random. It found you because you're ready now. You've always felt different. Even when you tried to fit in, something inside you refused. You see deeper. You feel more. You notice what others ignore. And that made your journey harder, because being chosen doesn't start with blessings. It starts with isolation. And you know that feeling. Being surrounded, but still alone. Smiling, but carrying something heavy inside. And here's what you didn't realize. Every moment of silence you experienced was not absence. It was design. You kept asking, why is God not answering me? But the truth is, He was answering you through the silence. You just weren't at the level to understand it yet. This part matters because the silence wasn't punishment. It was protection. Think about it. There were doors you begged for that never opened. People you wanted to stay, who walked away. Opportunities that felt perfect but disappeared. At the time it hurt. It confused you. But now you're starting to see it differently. You're realizing if those things had worked out, you would not be who you are right now. And who you are becoming requires a different level of strength, a different level of awareness, a different level of awareness. And this is where everything changes, because something inside you stopped chasing, stopped begging, stopped forcing. You didn't even notice it at first, but you started choosing peace over validation. You started walking away without explaining yourself. You started trusting your intuition, even when it didn't make sense. That shift, that quiet internal decision, that's the level. The level God was waiting for you to reach. Because before this, you weren't ready to handle what's coming. You would have rushed it. You would have doubted it. You would have sabotaged it. But now, you're different. And this is where the pattern becomes clear. Look back. All the delays, all the confusion, all the moments you felt stuck. They weren't random. They were aligning you, breaking old versions of you, detaching you from things that couldn't go with you. And yes, it felt unfair. Because you were trying, you were praying, you were holding on, but nothing moved. And that silence tested you. It tested your faith, your patience, your identity. But here's the truth you're finally seeing. You didn't break. You transformed. And that's why this moment feels different. Not because something external changed, but because you did. And now you're not reacting the same way. You're not chasing the same things. You're not afraid of being alone. That's power. That's elevation. And this part is the turning point. Because the moment you stopped needing everything to work out, everything started aligning. Not instantly, not loudly, but undeniably. You started noticing signs. Small confirmations. Moments where things just clicked. And you paused. Because deep down you knew something bigger was happening. This is where the silence breaks. Not with noise, but with clarity. God didn't stay silent because He left you. He stayed silent until you could hear Him without needing words. Let that sink in. Because now you don't need constant reassurance. You don't need everything explained. You trust the process, even when it's unclear. That's the level. And very few reach it. Because most people quit in the silence. They lose faith. They go back. They settle. But you didn't. Even when you were tired, you kept going. Even when you didn't understand, you stayed. Even when it felt like nothing was changing, you held on. And that's why this next phase is different. Because it's not about chasing anymore. It's about receiving. But here's what you didn't realize. Receiving requires alignment, and alignment requires letting go, and you did that quietly. Without applause, without recognition. You outgrew things you once thought you needed. You released people you once couldn't imagine losing. You faced parts of yourself you used to avoid. That's not small. That's transformation. And this is where the energy shifts again. Because now, you're not asking, when will it happen? You're feeling it's already happening. That inner knowing, that calm certainty, that's the sign. Not external validation, not loud success, but internal peace. And here's the revelation. God was never ignoring you. He was preparing you for something you couldn't see yet. Something that required a stronger version of you, a more grounded you, a more aware you. And now, you're there. Not perfect, but ready. And this next part will feel different, because things won't come with chaos anymore. They'll come with clarity, with ease, with alignment. Not forced, not confusing, just right. And when it happens, you'll understand why the silence was necessary, why the delays mattered, why certain things had to fall apart. Because if they didn't, you would never reach this level. And this level changes everything. Not just what you attract, but what you accept. Not just what you see, but how you see. And that's the real blessing. Not the outcome, but the transformation that made you ready for it. So if you've been feeling that shift, that quiet confidence, that sense that something is about to unfold, you're not imagining it, you're stepping into it. And the silence, it wasn't empty, it was building you. For this moment, right now, where you no longer need proof because you've become the proof. And that realization changes the way you move. You're not seeking anymore, you're sensing, you're not chasing signs, you're recognizing them. And this is where it deepens, because now your silence feels different too. It's not heavy, it's not confusing, it's calm, intentional, like something inside you finally settled. And here's what you didn't notice before. When you were desperate, everything felt delayed. But now that you're detached, things start flowing, not all at once, but enough to confirm you're on the right path. That small shift, that's everything, because most people never reach this point. They keep forcing, keep doubting, keep breaking their own alignment. But you stepped out of that cycle. And this part matters, because what's coming next requires this version of you. Not the one who begged, not the one who chased, but the one who trusts, fully, even in uncertainty. And now, doors won't feel like doors anymore. They'll feel like natural steps, like things that were always meant to happen finally finding their timing. And you'll pause again, not out of confusion, but out of recognition. Because deep inside you'll say to yourself, this feels right. And that feeling, that's your confirmation. Not validation from others, not approval from the world, but alignment within yourself. And this is where everything accelerates quietly, without noise, without chaos. You'll start noticing the right people showing up, the right conversations happening, the right opportunities forming without you forcing anything. And it will almost feel strange, because you're used to struggle, used to resistance, used to things being hard. But this time, it's different. And here's the truth most won't understand. Ease is not luck, it's alignment. And alignment only comes after you've been tested deeply. And you were, in ways no one saw, in battles no one understood. You carried things silently, you questioned yourself, you almost gave up more than once, but you didn't. And that's why this moment feels earned, not given, not random, but aligned. And this is where the energy shifts again, because now you're no longer afraid of losing things. You've already lost enough to know what leaves was never truly yours, and what stays will not need to be forced. That realization frees you completely. And when you're free like that, you become magnetic, not because you're trying, but because you're aligned. And this part is powerful, because now you don't attract from lack, you attract from wholeness. You're not trying to fill a void, you're expanding from fullness. And that energy, it changes everything. The way people see you, the way opportunities find you, the way life responds to you. And you won't even need to announce it. It will be felt, quietly, naturally, undeniably. And here's where it goes even deeper, because now you're starting to trust your inner voice more than external noise. That's rare, that's powerful, that's the level most never reach, because the world is loud, full of opinions, full of distractions, full of pressure. But you learned to listen inward, even when it was uncomfortable, even when it didn't make sense. And that's why now you don't need confirmation anymore. You move with knowing. And that knowing, that's where your power lives. And this is where the final shift begins, because everything from this point forward will reflect who you've become. Not who you were, not who you feared you might be, but who you chose to become through every silent moment, through every delay, through every test. And now, there's no going back. Because once you reach this level, you can't unsee what you see. You can't unsee what you see. You can't unknow what you know. You can't return to the old version of you that needed constant reassurance. That version is gone. And what's left is someone grounded, aware, aligned, and ready, not for noise, not for chaos, but for purpose, real purpose. The kind that doesn't need validation, the kind that doesn't seek attention, the kind that moves quietly, but impacts deeply. And as this unfolds, you'll realize something even more powerful. It was never about God being silent. It was about you becoming still enough to finally hear what was always there. And now you can't unhear it, that quiet guidance, that inner pull. It's clearer now, stronger, and this is where it becomes undeniable, because things you used to question, you now just know. No overthinking, no second-guessing, just certainty. And that kind of certainty, it changes how you walk through life. You hesitate less, you trust more. And here's what most people don't realize. When you trust like this, life responds differently, faster, cleaner, more aligned. And this part matters, because now, delays won't break you. They'll refine you. You won't panic anymore when things don't move instantly, because you understand timing now, you understand process, and most importantly, you understand yourself. And that's dangerous in the best way, because a person who understands themselves can't be easily shaken, can't be easily distracted, can't be easily controlled, and you're stepping into that energy fully. And this is where the shift intensifies, because now you're not reacting to life, you're directing it, quietly, intentionally, with awareness. And you'll start noticing something subtle. People feel it, they might not say it, but they sense the difference. The calm in your presence, the strength in your silence, the clarity in your energy. And this is where everything elevates again, because now you don't need to prove anything. Not your worth, not your path, not your vision. You've already validated yourself internally, and that internal validation, it's unshakable. And here's the deeper truth. God didn't just wait for you to reach this level. He built you for it. Every delay, every heartbreak, every moment of silence was shaping this version of you, the one who doesn't break under pressure, the one who doesn't fold in confusion, the one who stands even when things are uncertain. And this part is where most people fall off, because this level requires responsibility, not just awareness. You see more now, you feel more now, which means you're called to move differently. No more ignoring your intuition. No more settling for less. No more shrinking yourself to fit environments you've outgrown. And you feel that deeply, that pull to rise higher, that quiet voice saying, there's more for you. And this is where it all locks in, because now you're not waiting for permission. You're not asking for signs. You're moving because you already received them. And that's the shift, the real one, the one that separates you from who you used to be. And as you move forward, things will test this new version of you, not to break you, but to confirm you. And here's what you didn't expect. You'll pass those tests without even trying, because you're not the same anymore. Your reactions changed, your standards changed, your energy changed, and that changes everything. And this is where the final layer reveals itself, because now you're not just experiencing the journey, you're becoming the message, the example, the proof for others who are still in the silence, still questioning, still waiting. and they'll look at you and feel something, something they can't explain, but something that reminds them it's possible. And that's powerful, because your transformation is not just for you. It's bigger than that. It always was, and now you see it clearly. And this is where everything comes full circle, because the silence you once feared becomes the space where everything begins, not ends, begins. And now you don't run from it, you don't question it, you enter it with trust, with peace, with knowing, because you've been here before, but this time you understand it. And because you understand it, you don't fear what's coming next. You lean into it, calm, steady, certain, steady, certain. And this is where it gets deeper, because now even the unknown feels familiar, not because you've seen it before, but because you trust yourself within it. That's the shift. That's the level. And here's what you didn't expect. The things that once overwhelmed you now feel small. Not because life got easier, but because you got stronger, internally, silently, unshakably. And this part matters, because strength like this doesn't come from noise. It comes from everything you survived without being seen, everything you carried without being understood, everything you released without closure. That built you, piece by piece. And now you're standing in a version of yourself that once felt impossible, and you can feel it in the way you think, in the way you respond, in the way you respond, in the way you choose. You've slowed down, but you've become more powerful. And this is where everything sharpens, because now you see through illusions, you sense energy, you read intentions, without words, without effort. And that awareness, it protects you, guides you, elevates you. And here's the truth most will never reach. You're no longer looking for the right path. You've become aligned with it. There's a difference, a powerful one. Because now, even when things don't go your way, you don't collapse. You adjust, you observe, you move smarter. And this is where the intensity rises, because life will start reflecting your level back to you. More responsibility, more clarity, more purpose, but also more expectation from yourself. And you'll feel it, that inner standard rising, that refusal to go backwards, that quiet discipline that doesn't need motivation. And this part is where your real power locks in, because now you're not driven by emotion alone. You're guided by awareness, balanced, grounded, precise. And this changes everything. The way you speak, the way you decide, the way you move in silence, and people will notice, even if they don't understand, even if they can't explain it, they'll feel your presence differently, stronger, deeper, unmoved. And this is where it all intensifies again, because now you don't chase outcomes, you embody them. You become the energy that attracts what's meant for you, naturally, effortlessly. And here's what you're stepping into. A phase where things align not because you forced them, but because you're ready for them. Fully. And you won't question it this time. You won't doubt it. You'll receive it. Without hesitation. Without fear. Because you know you've already done the hardest part. Becoming. And now it's about stepping into it completely. Without shrinking. Without holding back. Without looking behind. And this final layer is where everything becomes real. Because now you're not preparing anymore, you're living it. The clarity, the alignment, the purpose, it's not coming, it's here. And you feel it, deep in your core, that quiet certainty, that unshakable knowing that this is only the beginning, and nothing will ever make you question your path again. Because now your path is not something you follow, it's something you carry. Within you, unshakable, unbreakable. And this is where it becomes irreversible, because once you reach this level of knowing, there is no confusion left to return to, no old version waiting for you, no past identity calling you back. That door is closed, completely, and you feel that final detachment. That quiet release, that inner voice saying there's nothing back there for you anymore. And this part matters because most people hesitate here. They look back, they doubt, they try to reconnect with what's familiar. But you don't. Not this time. And that decision, that silent choice to keep moving forward, locks everything in, permanently. And this is where the power sharpens again. Because now, you're not influenced by fear. You see it, you feel it. But it doesn't control you, it doesn't stop you, it doesn't slow you down. And that's rare, because fear controls most people, quietly, constantly. But you broke that pattern, and now you move with something deeper, something stronger, something most people can't explain. And here's what you didn't expect. This level comes with solitude, not loneliness, solitude. There's a difference, because now you don't need constant noise, you don't need validation, you don't need to be surrounded just to feel okay. You're enough on your own, in your own energy, in your own presence, and that is freedom, real freedom. And this is where it intensifies again, because now you start choosing differently, not based on comfort, not based on habit, but based on alignment. Every decision becomes intentional, every move becomes precise, every step becomes powerful, and you don't rush anymore, because you understand something now. What's meant for you doesn't require force. It requires readiness, and you're ready, fully. And this part is where everything becomes undeniable, because now life starts meeting you at your level, not below it, not above it, but exactly where you stand. And that reflection, that alignment, that synchronicity, it confirms everything, without needing words, without needing proof. You just feel it, and that feeling is your confirmation. And this is where the final intensity rises, because now you're not just walking your path, you are your path. Every thought, every action, every decision, aligned, focused, clear, and nothing can pull you out of that. Nothing. Because you built this through silence, through pain, through patience, through growth. And now you stand in it, fully, unapologetically, unshakably. And here's the truth that settles in. This level was never about reaching something outside of you. It was about becoming someone within. Someone who doesn't break. Someone who doesn't fold. Someone who doesn't lose themselves no matter what happens. And that someone is who you are now. And this is where it all completes. Not as an ending, but as a realization that everything you were waiting for was waiting for you to become this version of yourself. And now that you have, there's nothing left to chase, nothing left to prove, nothing left to question. Only one thing left: to continue walking forward, without hesitation, without doubt, without looking back. Because now you don't just believe, you know. And that knowing is quiet, not loud, not desperate, not trying to prove anything, just certain. And this is where it becomes absolute, because now even when things go wrong, you don't fall apart, you don't question your worth, you don't spiral like before, you pause, you breathe, you realign. And that response, that calm control, that inner stability, that's the real power. And this part matters, because life will still test you, not to break you, but to reveal how far you've come. And this time, you'll see the test while it's happening. You'll recognize the pattern instantly. And instead of reacting, you'll choose consciously. And that choice changes everything. Again. And here's where it deepens even more. Because now, you don't need things to be perfect to feel at peace. You don't need certainty to feel secure. You don't need answers to keep moving. You become steady within the unknown. And that is a level most people never touch. And this is where your presence evolves, because now you walk into rooms differently. You carry yourself differently. You speak less, but your words hold more weight. You do less, but your actions carry more impact. And people feel that. Even if they don't understand it, even if they can't explain it, they feel the shift. And this is where the energy rises again. Because now, You're not just aligned internally, your external world starts reflecting it clearly. Opportunities that match your energy, people who respect your boundaries, situations that feel right without forcing them. And you won't chase them, you'll choose them. And this part is where your standards become non-negotiable. No more settling. No more lowering yourself to fit places you've outgrown. No more ignoring red flags you can clearly see now. Because now, you trust yourself enough to walk away, without explanation, without guilt, without hesitation. And that's strength, real strength. And here's what makes it even deeper. You're no longer afraid of losing anything, because you finally understand what's meant for you cannot miss you, and what misses you was never meant to stay. And that truth sets you free on a level words can't fully explain. And this is where everything sharpens one last time, because now your focus becomes sacred, your energy becomes protected, your time becomes intentional. You don't give it away easily, you invest it wisely. And that shift creates a life that reflects your value. Not your past wounds, not your old fears, but your current alignment. And now there's a quiet confidence in you, unspoken, unseen by many, but undeniable to those who feel it. And this is where it all locks in. Because from this point forward, you don't need reminders, you don't need motivators, you don't need motivation, you don't need validation. You move because it's who you are now, naturally, effortlessly. And here's the final realization that settles in. You were never lost. You were never behind. You were never forgotten. You were being shaped for this exact level of awareness, this exact version of yourself. And now, there's nothing left to search for. Because everything you were looking for exists within how you move, how you think, how you choose. And that's the truth, the one you feel, not just hear. And now you don't just walk forward, you embody forward, with clarity, with power, with knowing, always knowing. And that becomes your anchor. Not people, not outcomes, not situations. You, rooted, steady, unmoved. And this is where it becomes untouchable, because now, even when everything around you shifts, you don't. You adapt, but you don't lose yourself. You adjust, but you don't break your alignment. And that level of control? It's rare. And this part matters, because the higher you rise, the more subtle the distractions become. Not obvious, not loud, but quiet, tempting, almost familiar. And this is where your awareness protects you, because now you can feel what's right. And more importantly, you can feel what's not, instantly, without overthinking, without second chances. And that keeps you clean, focused, aligned. And here's where it deepens again, because now you're not impressed by appearances. You're not moved by words alone. You read energy, you trust consistency, you observe patterns, and that clarity filters everything. People, opportunities, decisions. Nothing slips through unnoticed anymore. And this is where your power becomes silent, but undeniable. You don't argue, you don't explain, you don't convince. You simply choose. And that choice, it speaks louder than anything you could say. And this is where it intensifies one more time. Because now, you're no longer available for confusion. Not internally, not externally. If it's unclear, you step back. If it disrupts your peace, you release it. If it doesn't align, you walk away. No hesitation, no attachment, no noise. And that is mastery. And here's what most won't understand. You didn't become this way overnight. This came from everything you endured, everything you processed, everything you healed alone. And now you carry that wisdom in how you move, in how you decide, in how you protect your energy. And this is where everything locks in completely, because now there is no internal conflict left, no war inside you, no confusion pulling you in different directions, just clarity, pure clarity. And that clarity, it sharpens your path, makes every step intentional, every move precise, every moment meaningful. And this is where the final intensity peaks, because now you don't just trust yourself, you rely on yourself fully, without doubt, without hesitation, without needing backup. And that level of self-trust, it's unbreakable. And from here, nothing can shake your foundation, nothing can distort your vision, nothing can pull you out of alignment, because you've built something within you that doesn't depend on anything outside of you. And that is the highest level, the one the silence was leading you to all along. And now that you're here, there's only one direction left: forward, stronger, sharper, more aligned than ever before. Because now you don't just understand the path, you are the path. And because you are the path, nothing outside of you can take it away. Not delays, not opinions, not unexpected turns. Everything bends, but you remain. And this is where it becomes undeniable, because now, even when life tries to challenge your direction, you don't question it. You deepen into it, you stand firmer, you move clearer. And this part matters, because the final test is not about losing your way, it's about staying true to it when everything around you tries to shift it. And now you're ready for that, fully. And here's what you start to notice. The more you stay aligned, the less resistance you feel. Not because challenges disappear, but because you move through them differently, with awareness, with control, with precision. And this is where your energy becomes refined, sharp, focused, uncompromising. You don't scatter anymore. You don't overextend. You don't pour into things that don't pour back into you. And that discipline, it elevates everything. And this is where it goes even deeper, because now you're not just protecting your peace, you're building from it. Every decision comes from clarity, not emotion, not pressure, not fear. And that foundation creates something powerful, something stable, something lasting. And here's the truth that locks it all in. You're no longer in a phase, you're in a state, a permanent state of awareness, of alignment, of knowing. And this state doesn't switch off. It doesn't fade. It becomes who you are. And this is where the intensity rises one final time. Because now there is no gap between who you are and how you live. No separation, no contradiction, just alignment. Complete alignment. And that is rare. That is power. And here's what you'll feel more than anything. A deep, quiet certainty that doesn't need to be spoken. That doesn't need to be explained, that doesn't need to be explained, that doesn't need to be proven. Because it's real, and you know it. You feel it, every moment. And this is where everything becomes effortless, not easy, but effortless, because you're no longer resisting yourself, you're moving with yourself. And that flow, it carries you, naturally, powerfully, forward. And there's nothing left pulling you back, nothing left distracting you. Nothing left confusing you. Only clarity, only direction, only purpose. And this is where it all settles, not as an ending, but as a final realization. That the silence you once questioned was the process that made you this, unshakable, unstoppable, unapologetically aligned. And now there's nothing left to search for, nothing left to become, because you already are. Fully, completely, and permanently. Because you already are, and now you don't wait anymore. You move, quietly, confidently, without hesitation. No noise, no doubt, no need to prove anything. Just alignment. And this is the final truth. God was never late. God was never silent. You are being prepared for a level most never reach. And now that you're here, nothing can stop what's meant for you. Nothing can shake who you've become. Nothing can shake who you've become. Nothing can take you back. Because this time, you didn't just grow, you transformed. Completely. And from here, everything you step into will recognize you. Because you finally recognized yourself. This wasn't just a message, it was confirmation of who you become. If you feel it, stay with this path and subscribe for what's next. Because you're not just watching, you're evolving.